She doesn't ignore you because she hates you. She ignores you because you've become predictable. Feminine respect doesn't die with a scream. It dies with silence. Not hers, yours. That silence where you swallow yet another test, yet another veiled criticism, yet another, I don't know what happened, I just don't feel the same way anymore. And you accept it. Smile. Try to understand. Explain yourself. Do everything right and sink in. What no one told you is that a woman's respect isn't born from what you offer. It's born from what you impose. It's hard to hear that. But even harder is living a life where you always lose to guys who aren't prettier, richer, or smarter. Just more untamable. What they call mysterious attraction is actually the biological response to the man who carries himself. The one who doesn't beg for presents. The one who knows how to disappear when he needs to. The one who is capable of provoking fear and desire in equal measure. You've been domesticated, trained to think that being respected means pleasing, that a woman will appreciate how helpful, available, and sensitive you are. And do you know what happens to a man who lives this way? He becomes a secondary concern, a shoulder to cry on, emotional support until the day she no longer needs it. Because what she wants isn't support, it's tension, conflict, emotional risk. The kind of instability that only a centered man can generate because he's stable on the inside and chaotic on the outside. The truth is brutal. If you still believe that respect is earned with gentleness, you'll live a life where love always slips away at the moment it seems most real. You'll never know exactly why. You'll only taste the unexplained loss. And that's when the silent chaos begins in your mind. Where did I go wrong? Why did she lose the sparkle in her eyes? What could I have done differently? It wasn't what you did. It was what you didn't know. Feminine respect isn't given. It's extracted. It's not gentle. It's savage. And it has nothing to do with rudeness or aggression. It has to do with position. Nietzsche said that happiness is the feeling that power grows. The respected man is the one who grows while others bow. He doesn't need to prove himself. He doesn't need to beg. The simple feeling that he can leave, that he carries a shadow that doesn't fully reveal itself, that's enough. The problem? Most men today are desperate to be understood. Not admired, not desired, understood. They sell themselves as emotional beings seeking acceptance, trying to convince women they're different from others. And she even believes it, for a while. But deep down, she doesn't want to understand you. She wants to feel you. And feeling a man means surrendering to his presence, not to arguments. She can hear you. She can even say she loves you. But if she doesn't respect you, she doesn't desire you. Because female desire is born of forced surrender, not conscious affection. From surrender to what she can't control, to what threatens her, even minimally. The philosopher Ortega y Gasset wrote, "The combination of fascination and surrender is the essence of love." But modern man has only learned to fascinate with words, and he has forgotten to cultivate the kind of energy that compels surrender. Not with violence, but with existential weight. And that's why you need to understand what will be revealed in the next few minutes. It's not about manipulating, it's about stopping being manipulated. It's not about becoming an artificial alpha. It's about stopping bleeding inside every time you realize she's lost your respect, and you don't know how to restore it. This video is a mirror, a slap, and a key. It will show you the invisible error that sabotages you, the silent tests you fail without realizing, and the nonverbal methodology that commands respect without shouting. But before all of this, you must make a choice. Remain the man everyone forgets, or become the one no one dares ignore. Are you ready? Then look back. See the moments when you lost someone who seemed to be in your hands. Now look forward. And prepare to never feel that weakness again. You were raised to be accepted, not to be respected. From an early age you were told that if you were kind, patient, and attentive, you would receive compliments. That if you treated women well, they would see your worth. That all you had to do was be different from the others and love would come as a reward. But this narrative, sold as ethics, hid the real currency in the game of attraction. Power. And power in the female universe doesn't translate into kindness, it translates into emotional weight. Western culture has produced an ideal, the nice guy. The one who doesn't yell, who doesn't cheat, who is always available, who listens, consoles, and protects. He's the man of the speech. the one women say they want. But there's a detail no one told you. What a woman says she wants and what her body reacts to are two distinct dimensions. She may admire the nice guy, she may even respect his morality, but she doesn't feel the visceral urge to surrender to him. Because the nice guy doesn't generate tension. And without tension, there is no desire. Robert Greene, in The Art of Seduction, calls this the fatal error of gratitude. A man believes that if he gives his all, attention, affection, protection, a woman will reciprocate with loyalty and desire. But what he doesn't realize is that by giving himself completely, without demanding anything in return, he destroys the mystery. He reveals himself completely before he's even asked. And when you make yourself 100% available, the game is over. Because what keeps a woman emotionally connected is unpredictability. It's doubt. It's the feeling that she could lose you if she falters. Look at Ross Geller from Friends. The eternally nice guy, passionate, understanding, who does everything for Rachel. A character everyone calls sweet, but who, season after season, is constantly ignored, replaced, humiliated, until finally being accepted when she has no one else around. Now look at Patrick Bateman from American Psycho. A psychopath, cold, self-centered, disturbing, and yet women desire him. Why? Because mystery fascinates, danger attracts. What cannot be tamed ignites the most primal part of female desire. And herein lies the contradiction you must accept if you want to escape invisibility. Respect is not born from surrender, but from absence. A woman only connects emotionally with those who have the potential to reject her, not for the sake of playing games, but because it demonstrates value. A man who is not always available is saying, without words, "My energy is rare, my resources are limited, my presence is selective, and what is selective becomes coveted. What is easy becomes disposable." Nietzsche said that excessive moralism is often a mask of weakness. When a man tries to compensate for his insecurity with gestures of exaggerated kindness, he is not being ethical. He is trying to buy affection. A woman senses this, not consciously, but instinctively. And her instinct recognizes, if he must give so much of himself, perhaps he is not as valuable as he seems. It's cruel, but true. The irony is that the truly good man, the one who protects, who cares, who is fair, doesn't need to rub it in anyone's face. He commands respect before offering affection. He positions himself before pleasing. He sets boundaries before giving himself. And only after the woman bends to his will does he offer his emotional side. This isn't coldness. This is order. Because in the game of seduction, a woman seeks chaos, but wants the man to be the structure that dominates that chaos. You need to understand the difference between strategic kindness and emotional fragility disguised as kindness. The first is the conscious choice to act with compassion without sacrificing yourself. The second is the desperate attempt to be accepted at any cost, even if it costs you your masculinity. What a woman respects isn't how you feel about her, it's how much you respect yourself in front of her. Think about it. A nice guy is usually the one who adapts, who changes his behavior to please, who doesn't contradict, who avoids conflict. But a woman only respects someone who sets limits, who challenges, who forces her to evolve emotionally to be on his level. If you never cause discomfort, you never activate her instinct for growth. And without growth, there is no admiration, just formal coexistence. The invisible error isn't in what you do wrong, it's in how you're perceived. The man who acts right but conveys fragility loses. The man who overdoes it but maintains poise still gets a hearing. Because a woman doesn't analyze you logically. She reads you with her feelings. And what determines those feelings is how you occupy space, how you speak, how you assert your presence, how you withdraw without warning, how you say no without justifying yourself. Do you think she wants a sensitive guy who cries on the first date? She might find it cute, but she won't be turned on. Because vulnerability is only sexy when it comes from someone who exudes strength. Otherwise, it becomes an emotional burden she has to carry. And she already carries the weight of the world. Now look at your life. How many times have you been left aside for being too good? How many times have you heard the phrase, "You deserve better"? How many times have you tried to explain that you just wanted to make her happy? And she responded with silence or contempt. This didn't happen because you're a mistake. It happened because you didn't understand the game. And in the game of attraction, the guy who plays to please loses. The one who plays to lead wins. It's not about becoming a jerk. It's about regaining your position of influence. To reprogram your place on the board. To stop asking for love and start demanding respect. Because only after she respects you can she truly love you. And the path to that begins where most fail. In the awareness that being good isn't enough. You have to be good and dangerous. And when she feels like you can disappear, that you don't need her to validate your existence, then, and only then, will she truly begin to notice you. Disrespect doesn't start with a slap. It starts with a joke, with a subtle tease that makes you the target, with a "shut up" said with a smirk, with a barely perceptible test but charged with a specific energy, that she wants to know if she can break you. And if you don't notice this, or worse, if you laugh along, the game starts to unravel. Not in the shouting, but in the details. Women don't test men out of malice. They test instinctively. A woman tests because her brain needs an unconscious response. Am I next to someone who will protect me, or someone who will make me protect him? The way you react to the tests is how she categorizes you internally. You may not even realize the exact moment, but when she tests you and you fail, something changes. Your pupils dilate less, the kiss comes with less urgency, the energy in her gaze disappears. And worst of all, you still think everything's fine. Neil Strauss in The Game explains that women's tests, the infamous shit tests, are not optional. They are inevitable, and they are proportional to your perceived attractiveness. The more she desires you, the more she will test. Because the more involved she becomes, the more she needs to be sure she's giving herself to someone who supports her own worth. It's a cruel paradox. The tests increase the more you get it right. And if you don't understand this, you'll think you're being rejected, when in fact, you're being scrutinized. These tests come in many forms. A deliberate delay, a derogatory comment, a public provocation, a comparison to an ex, a 48-hour disappearance. She wants to see how you react. If you freak out, she sees a lack of control. If you beg, she sees neediness. If you get offended, she sees fragility. But if you remain stable, observe, and don't justify yourself, she feels she's in the presence of someone with a sense of purpose. And that sense of purpose is magnetic. Because the man who doesn't react immediately sends the most powerful signal in the social game. I am unshakable. And what is unshakable, in her universe, is valuable. Because in her world, emotional, intense, chaotic, what's most lacking is stability. But be careful. Stability isn't passivity. It's active presence. It's posture with silence. It's control without rigidity. The problem with modern men is that they confuse being centered with being passive. And passivity is the poison of respect. How many times have you ignored these tests, thinking it was just a phase? How many times have you tried to be understanding when she provoked you? How many times have you seen her push you to your emotional limit, and instead of walking away or setting a limit, you tried to be more accepting? That's not compassion. That's poorly disguised weakness. And, unfortunately, the female instinct detects this with surgical precision. A woman doesn't lose respect all at once. She gradually withdraws small doses of admiration each time you fail to uphold your position. And the worst part is, she'll never say it. She'll simply stop getting ready to see you. She'll start distracting herself with her phone during dinner. She'll react with disdain when you try to talk, and you, lost, will blame her. But the breakdown already began before. The day she realized you were no longer strong-willed. There's a brutal difference between being kind and being dominated, and the line is so subtle that most don't realize when they've crossed it. A man starts by offering affection, but soon begins to give in. Then he begins to tolerate small amounts of disrespect, and finally he begins to justify everything. Sorry, I didn't mean to sound rude. You're right, I overreacted. Don't take it the wrong way, I was just trying to please. At that point, she's no longer listening to you. She's just counting the seconds until she replaces you with someone who doesn't apologize for existing. This is where the ritual of devaluation comes in. The silent process where a woman sees you as lesser, not necessarily financially, physically, or intellectually, but energetically. You lose your shine, you lose your presence, and everything you do seems like an attempt to regain something that's already gone. But that something isn't her, it's you. your posture, your firmness, your silent dignity. And how do you regain that? It starts with one word: absence. Absence is the antidote to disrespect. Not childish disappearance used as manipulation, but selective absence. The kind that happens when you realize something is wrong, and instead of confronting it emotionally, you withdraw strategically. The man who masters his own time, his own focus, and his own energy commands respect simply by withdrawing. Because he shows he doesn't need to argue. He doesn't need to justify himself. He simply walks away, and his silence echoes louder than 1,000 WhatsApp texts. When a woman realizes she could lose you, not out of jealousy, but as a natural consequence of actions that harm the emotional pact, she begins to readjust her behavior. And this readjustment only happens when you break the cycle of neediness with the firmness of self-respect. But to do this, you need to have clear codes. And these codes are the silent rules that govern social testing. Here are some principles you should inscribe on your soul. 1. Never justify yourself for being firm. She may not like it at the moment, but she will respect it forever. 2. Silence is worth more than argument. When she tests you, don't explain, respond with poise. 3. Kindness is not submission. Do good, but never in exchange for affection. 4. Rewards require discretion. Don't give everything at once. She needs to feel she's earned it, not earned it. 5. Presence must carry weight. If your presence doesn't make an impact, your absence will be a relief. These codes are not manipulation tactics. They are energy patterns that shape perception. Because a woman doesn't respect those who speak beautifully, she respects those who force her to think twice before crossing a line. It's important to say, this chapter is not an invitation to coldness. It's not a call to indifference or narcissism. It's a warning about the signs you ignore, about the tests you fail, about the silent deconstruction of your worth, done one step at a time with your complicity. You don't need to be cruel, but you do need to be clear. You need to have boundaries. You need to know how to step away when the tide starts to turn. And above all, you need to observe yourself. Because if you're constantly being tested, maybe she's still trying to respect you. But when the tests stop, it's because she's already decided you're no longer worth examining. And at that point, you've already lost. But there's still a type of man who doesn't need to defend himself against these tests. Because he carries something different. An energy that doesn't provoke doubt. A posture that blocks any attempt at disrespect before it even begins. This is the man who has mastered the art of silent presence. And that's what we'll talk about now. The man who dominates the room without needing to say a word is the man a woman never dares to test. There is a kind of power that requires no argument, no ostentation, no performance. It's the power you feel when he enters a room and everything falls silent. When he walks and people unconsciously adjust. When he speaks little but carries a presence that screams. This man doesn't need to threaten, doesn't need to convince, doesn't need to seduce in the ordinary sense. He exists and respect accompanies him. This is the territory of silent domination, and the secret to this power begins with a paradox. The less you try to impress, the more impressive you become. The male world has been trained to think that respect comes from display, expensive cars, designer clothes, catchphrases. But true respect is born from economy of movement, from controlled energy, from imperturbable calm. Because what conveys authority isn't the number of words, it's how comfortable you are with silence. And silence, in the world of female emotions, is interpreted as inner strength. When a man can sustain silence in a conversation, it triggers a specific feeling in a woman. This man is at peace with himself. He doesn't need me to fill the void. And this feeling is rare, because most men are overwhelmed with anxiety. They talk too much, laugh too much, explain too much. They constantly try to prove themselves, and all of this ironically communicates insecurity. You need to understand that your body language begins to speak before you even open your mouth. The way you enter a room, where you position your feet, how you move your shoulders, the slowness of your gestures, the focus of your eyes, all of this is an invisible narrative. And what this narrative is saying determines the level of respect you will receive. Not just from her, but from the world. Take Thomas Shelby from Peaky Blinders, for example. A character who, even surrounded by chaos, never raises his voice, never rushes, never justifies himself, and yet he is feared, respected, and followed. Because his authority isn't in shouting, it's in conserving energy, in the lingering gaze, in the awkward silence. He is the master of unhurriedness. And this unhurriedness is perceived as absolute dominance. In the book The Game, Mystery teaches that a man of high social value is one who behaves like the prize, and the prize never rushes. The prize observes. The prize allows itself to be discovered and doesn't surrender immediately. This behavior activates a woman's primal code. She begins to want to decipher, and in the process of trying to decipher, she becomes emotionally involved. But how to apply this in practice? It starts with controlling your voice. Speak more slowly than you're used to. Lower your tone. Eliminate like, Insert strategic pauses. When interrupted, stop speaking and look into someone's eyes. Don't rush to resume. Pausing is awkward, and awkwardness conveys authority. A man who takes his time to be heard forces others to shut up and listen to him. Next, posture and movement. Shoulders back, chin slightly raised, slow and conscious movements. No bouncing your legs, crossing your arms, or constantly looking away. Anything restless conveys instability. Anything immobile conveys security. And women respond biologically to male security. Now, the most neglected component, strategic absence. Absence is the most underrated power in the game of seduction. Because while everyone tries to remain present, available, active, the man who disappears at the right moment becomes unforgettable. But not just any disappearance. It needs to be a weighty absence, the kind she notices, that interrupts the pattern, that forces reflection. You don't need to disappear for days. You just need to learn to leave the scene before respect wears off. Continuous presence without emotional tension is like a candle lit in broad daylight. It goes unnoticed. But a flame that extinguishes and reappears fascinates. You are not a product. You are a mystery. And every mystery requires space to breathe. Selective absence is the space that fuels her imagination. It is the interval between stimuli that gives value to the next encounter. When you master this cycle, appear, impact, disappear, you become addictive. This logic is not new. It is ancient. The philosopher Lao Tzu wrote, "Water is gentle, but it wears away stone." Power lies in subtlety, and a woman, even without rational understanding, responds to this kind of energy. Because silent domination speaks directly to instinct, she can't explain why she respects you. She only knows she respects you, and therefore she desires you. But be careful. This power only works when it's real. There's no point in forcing silence if your energy is filled with anxiety. There's no point in walking slowly if your eyes are uncertain. You need to live what you convey. Be what you represent. This requires an internal realignment, an abandonment of the desire to be accepted, and the adoption of the posture of someone willing to lose everything, except themselves. It's at this point that respect becomes voluntary submission. A woman doesn't surrender because she's been dominated. She surrenders because she realizes that trying to control you would be futile. Because you are free. And freedom is the most seductive force there is. You've come this far because you know you're wasting your time with weak advice. The world is teaching you to be a harmless man. Women sense this, test you, and lose respect without saying a word. The Forbidden Manual isn't motivational content. It's a direct, applicable code for generating real desire in 60 seconds. No prepackaged phrases, no flattery. The audiobook shows you what activates a woman's instinct and how any man can use it to his advantage. It doesn't matter if you're shy, ordinary, or have been rejected your entire life. If you understand the right triggers, you'll become someone she respects before you even open your mouth. And best of all, you can apply everything while listening without needing to memorize anything. If you want to stop being ignored and start mastering the dynamics of the game, click "I want this now." Because after listening, you'll never again enter an interaction without knowing exactly what's going on. And those who understand the game always play better than those who just react.